Tomorrow marks the 30th anniversary of one of the Australian Navy's most devastating naval disasters. The collision between the aircraft carrier HMAS Melbourne and the USS Frank E. Evans claimed 74 lives. Survivors and families of the dead will gather in Sydney on Thursday for a special commemoration service. But they'll also reflect on the high price paid by the captain of the Melbourne, John Stevenson, who was made the scapegoat for the accident. Annie White reports.
Something of nightmares are made of. It was just, everything seemed disjointed and it was beyond belief.
I was asleep, after watching the movie, and suddenly I was thrown out of my, we call it, bunk,
Just after 3 a.m. on the morning of June the 3rd, 1969, a training exercise in the South China Sea went horribly wrong. An American destroyer, the USS Frank E. Evans, ordered to move into position behind the HMAS Melbourne, turned the wrong way and headed straight for the massive carrier.
Well, I sent a signal to him immediately saying you're on a collision course, which in those circumstances would say, hey, take a look, take some action to get off it.
Captain J.P. Stevenson, or Steve as he's known, a young talented commander in the Australian Navy, was on the bridge of his ship, the Melbourne. The captain of the Frank E. Evans was asleep in his cabin, while a young, inexperienced officer was left in charge.
It took him a while to get the picture, which he then realised he didn't understand what it was. And so then he went hard over with his rudder, meaning he didn't know, so he'd better get out of it. So he went hard over and he went the wrong way. So from being on my starboard bow, if he'd gone hard to port, if he just continued on, all would have been well. But he went hard the wrong way, spun back under my bows with me swinging hard away, him swinging faster, he's steaming faster. And he just got under my bows, and we cut him in two.
The front half of the Evans sank in minutes and 74 lives were lost. Chief storekeeper on the Evans, Larry Malile, is in Australia along with his wife for tomorrow's memorial service. He was one of the lucky few who managed to escape from the front of the ship before it sank and was the last to be rescued.
It's the most scary thing that happened to me, I've been in so many scrapes, but that one was really very scary, finding yourself all alone in the water because I don't know where the rest of my shipmates. So it was really scary.
Within seconds of the collision, Captain Stevenson took swift action, manoeuvring the 20,000-ton ship to rescue those stranded on the fantail.
It was kind of strange because you had a large ship pulling up next to you and they threw lines over and made the lines fast and pulled the ship in next to the Melbourne at that time.
They were issued with a can of beer each. The ship's band came and played American tunes, anything to keep their mind off the tragedy.
Australia's Minister for the Navy, Mr. Kelly, said today he believed that the aircraft carrier Melbourne would emerge with a completely clean sheet from the coming inquiry into yesterday's collision.
But the Minister's confidence was premature. The inquiry took place at Subic Bay, the US naval base in the Philippines. Headed by American Rear Admiral Jerome King, who was in charge of the American ships on this exercise, the board seemed intent on blaming Captain Stevenson for the tragedy.
Jumped over the side to give assistance to those struggling in the water.
I not only felt something was wrong, I knew something was wrong, and I just had to grit my teeth and not stand up and shout, hey, what the hell's going on?
Captain Stevenson's wife, Jo, who had flown to her husband's side after she received word of the accident, now became unofficial court scribe, taking literally thousands of paid notes.
It was continuous and my back hurt, but apart from that, no, I had to be there.
Worse was to come. A month after the inquiry, Captain Stevenson was accused of failing to do enough to prevent the collision, and he was put before a court-martial. He was also demoted by the Navy he had served since his 12th birthday. Despite his eventual honourable acquittal, Steve was far from jubilant when the verdict came in.
And we'll see if we can have a word. Any comment at all on the verdict?
No, no comment at this stage, Steve.
What about you, Mr. Stevenson? What would you like to say
Nothing
about
at all
it?
to say at this time.
Thank you very much.
Sometime through the court, sometime during the court-martial, I think, although it came out so well, I guess at that point I figured this was not the place I wanted to be anymore. And that those I'd be serving under in the future, I didn't want to serve under in the future.
Father Mike, say,
So
hey,
Mummy
Mike,
can see
we're
a
coming.
big smile.
Steve Stevenson retired from the Navy after the court-martial. Jo Stevenson turned her notes and her anger at the outcome into a book in which she argues her husband was a victim of politics.
It had to be political because there was nothing in the actions of Melbourne or any of its crew that caused the accident.
There was great pressure on the Americans at that time. They had a lot of bad accidents. They didn't want another one. And they were in a position to cover it up. And I think they went out of their way to keep it quiet, have the inquiry come out their way, and have a scapegoat.
Meanwhile, the officers in charge of the Frank E. Evans on the night of the collision were reprimanded for the incident. The sleeping skipper, Captain Albert McLemore, was given a shore posting and left the Navy soon after. Only now, 30 years later, has Captain McLemore joined the chorus of supporters who believe Captain Stevenson was made a scapegoat.
I think it will help Captain McLemore more than it will help anyone else. And I'm glad for his sake. I just wish that the Australian Naval Board members that went to Subic Bay would also be brave enough to speak out.
I don't think he's accepting full responsibility. Put it this way, he should have been called. But put it another way, he should have been on the bridge, whether he was called or not.
Not like we used to.
Surprisingly, many of the American sailors did not know until recently Captain Stevenson had been cleared of blame. They were never told what really happened, and they are still fighting to have their bravery recognised.
You Aussies have a way of saying, lest we forget, and that was brought to us by some of your Australian sailors. And so now we've adopted that, lest we forget.
It's history coming back to life. We honor our dead every time we meet, and we will as long as we live.
Jo Stevenson has updated her book for the 30th anniversary. She wants people to remember those lost that night and to set history straight.
It shouldn't have happened. It almost couldn't have happened, and it really took quite terrific negligence for it to happen.
Annie White with that report. As yet, you'd have to say, not complete.